This is the Military Bottom Line Podcast, episode 82.
It's not 100% of all of the money the VA and the federal government has given me. So this is just the education money. From spring of 2017 to date, the VA for education has been...
Oh my gosh. Welcome to the Military Bottom Line Podcast, where we learn from veterans and those currently serving how to make the most out of a military contract. We're here to motivate, inspire, and help you leverage your service to positively impact you professionally, personally, and financially during your military career and beyond. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining me today. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to Kyle. Kyle is a 5-year Marine Corps veteran who worked as a helicopter mechanic as part of HMX-1, which, if you don't know, is the presidential squadron. You know, we touched base on his time in the military because he's got some unique opportunities and experiences there. What we really focus on today is his experience on making the most out of his education benefits. He has used his post 9/11 GI Bill. He has spent time using VRNE. He has studied abroad using these benefits. He has gotten his private pilot's license using these benefits. And I've never met anybody before that has done this, but he has kept track of every dollar he has ever been paid via BAH or stipends or anything like that, combined with every dollar that the VA has actually paid for his tuition. And so he comes here sharing how much the VA has actually paid him in towards his education process in the past 6 years. And I tell you what, it's quite shocking. It's quite shocking. And so I think, he comes here with a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and hopefully you guys can get something out of this. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Good evening, Kyle. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Great, man. Great. I appreciate you connecting with me. I think you commented originally on one of my YouTube videos.
Yes.
And then we connected after that and kind of heard a little bit of your backstory. And it sounds like you've got a lot of great insight and experience to come share with us on how you've used some of your VA benefits and, your time in the military. And so I'm looking forward to getting into that.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for, having your platform to get the word out and help people actually take advantage of their benefits.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Provide us a little bit of a backstory as to when and why you joined the military in the first place.
Yeah, so I joined in 2011, the Marine Corps. I did a year of college before joining, so it wasn't straight out of high school. And if there was like a checklist of things to do wrong at college, I just found it and went down the list.
Right on.
So I joined when I was one semester short of being kicked out for failing all my classes.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Where were you going to school?
So I was going to Iowa State University, so in Ames, Iowa, Big 12, Go Cyclones. I'm still a big fan. I'll get more about them later, but I went back to them after I was done with the military as well.
Okay.
So no complaints about the school. Everybody there is great.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I joined the military because I was like, well, I know this college thing isn't for me right now. So what else is there? And then I found the Marine Corps and it worked out well.
Did you find the Marine Corps or did they find you, kind of thing?
I found them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I walked into, I did some research and stuff of my own on the internet.
Yeah.
And then I had some friends that were in the Guard. So I talked with them. And then I just walked into the recruiting office and was like, are these things I found on the internet true or are they not true?
Right on. Were you looking for a specific job or where were you hoping to go other than get out of college at that point? Where were you hoping to go and achieve?
So I wasn't looking for anything in particular. All of my friends that were in the National Guard were all grunts. So when I went to the recruiter, I'm like, hey, can I do grunt things? And he was like, yes, but I'm not going to sign you that contract. I'm like, okay. So then I started looking at different jobs. I originally thought I had a contract to be an airframe mechanic on F-35s.
Okay.
And discovered after MCT, when I didn't get on the bus to go to Pensacola, that I didn't have that contract.
All right. The old bait and switch.
Yeah. So I had an open aviation contract. So,
Gotcha.
a 5 year active, 3 year IRR, and then any aviation, so any 6,000 MOS job in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And it ended up being a 6113, so a flight line mechanic on the CH-53 helicopters.
Dang.
Of which I've yet to touch one.
I've had some buddies that were flight line mechanics, and no 53s, but they were Cobras and Hueys, and they got worked like dogs.
Yeah, they do.
It seemed like a brutal lifestyle, but
yeah, depending upon the unit you're at too. Like if you're at a training squadron, you do 12 on, 12 off, 6 days a week.
Yeah,
like it sucks.
That does suck. So you went to school to become a CH-53 mechanic?
Yes.
Didn't ever touch a 53.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Yeah, so HMX, which is the Presidential Helicopter Squadron, they were short bodies when I was going through the school, and a little bit before me. So they were just snatching people from the schoolhouses for all of the different kinds of airframes for rotary wing.
Interesting. Okay. And you got snatched? I
got snatched.
So I was any particular reason, or how does that play out? Like, did you volunteer as they were there, or they just picked your name?
Yeah, so they didn't come speak to us or anything. My instructors let us know that there's a high likelihood we're going to get snatched because so many people from their previous classes were. And then he's like, the closest you can get to requesting it is putting East Coast first on your list of preferences before you get stationed.
Okay.
And then people were telling me, it's like, yeah, you should put your what is it? You put your where you want to get stationed first last because the Marine Corps hates you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I didn't do that. I put East Coast first just to see what happened. And then it was like 3 weeks into the 8-week schooling, we got orders. Like 5 out of the 8 people in my class got orders to HMX. Okay. So then our instructors was like, yeah, we're not teaching you guys anything. We don't care anymore.
Got it. So you went to a different schoolhouse then, or you just go straight to
we finished the schoolhouse. Yeah. So HMX, because the Protosis helicopters only exist at a unit. So there's no formal schooling for it. It's all on the job training.
Interesting. Okay.
So I went to the unit and the unit splits into 2 sides. They call it green side and white side.
Yeah.
So white side is the presidential helicopters, and then green side is their support. So they have V-22s there now. When I got there, they had frogs, so the CH-46s.
Yeah.
So while I was waiting for my clearance investigation, I was working on frogs.
Gotcha. Okay. What was that like? So, I mean, you're like, you're pretty green. You show up to work at the presidential squadron. Did you feel like you won the lottery at this point, or were you like, we'll see?
I was definitely like a we'll see. Like, I heard a bunch of stories about going on trips all the time, getting to see way more interesting places than people normally get to see. But also, like, the downside is you're not in control of your life for however long you're there. It's even like, it's like I'm gonna do something with like my girlfriend or spouse or whatever for this weekend, and unless you like scheduled it off, they'll pull you to go on a trip last minute.
Okay, so you're like on call
all the time.
Than the rest of the military. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, probably like once I was on white side and got my qualifications, 2 to 3 weeks a month I was on the road.
Gotcha. Okay, so this was 2011 timeframe, you said?
Yep. So I joined October of 2011.
Okay.
So I got to the unit, I think it was like May of 2012.
2012. And you had a 5-year contract. So were you there the rest of the time? I mean, did you just barely cross over presidents? So you were Obama primarily, and then?
Yeah. So my last day officially was October 31st of 16. So it was just before the Hillary Trump election.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then, so like I joined during the election year for 2012 was when I got to the unit. And I mean, our base, like our hangars and stuff, were a ghost town because Obama was campaigning for re-election.
Interesting. So you guys were always out.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And then the same was true for 2016. I mean, he wasn't doing obviously a re-election, but he was out campaigning for Hillary.
Yeah. Yeah. Funny how they how that all works.
Yeah.
But that's a different topic. Right on. All right. So while you're there, I mean, where's your focus? I mean, are you like super gung ho about the job and you're like, this is dope, I'm doing like everything I thought I would be doing? Or where was it pretty early on? Because obviously you only did one contract. Was
Yeah.
it pretty early on that you were, working on school or TA and making the next plans, or kind of where was your mind during this process?
It was all over the place. I really liked the work I was doing. I liked the people that I was doing it with.
Yeah.
I liked the travel aspect. And for me being single in early 20s, I don't care where I go. Let's go.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that worked out great. And then the other things I liked about it was like I was able to do use TA for a couple of college classes,
Nice.
which was nice. And then I met people that were from all over the Marine Corps that came to our unit, and most of them were senior people that have been around the block for a few times. Like, this is going to sound weird, but like, we had more staff sergeants than sergeants in my shop, and more sergeants than corporals, and more corporals than junior enlisted.
Wow. Yeah, a little top heavy.
Yeah, we're super top heavy. So they've all, like, some of them have done MSG, some of them have done security forces. So just sharing their stories, I'm like, oh, the Marine Corps has a shit ton to offer.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is super cool. I could explore it all. And then as I started to do more maintenance and get more hours and stuff like that, the sort of mental challenge of the maintenance wasn't there anymore. Sort of the same things keep breaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it becomes a lot more routine.
Got it.
Yeah. I liked where I was at with the unit, but the Marine Corps treats HMX like any other unit. So basically, if I re-enlisted, I could have gone anywhere else.
Yeah. And
then my problem was I was a corporal 5 years in, zero experience in my MOS.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, it seems like a sweet opportunity until you kind of play it out a little bit longer and see how it impacts the rest of your career if you were to stay. So yeah, I have heard of that problem, having those unique billets early on.
Yeah. So I think now they've turned it into a B billet for aviation MOSs, which is nice.
Interesting. You talk about the travel. Is it primarily domestic, or are you going international also, or what is that?
Yeah. So we go everywhere the president goes. And rarely we also go places where the vice president goes.
Okay.
So we support the vice president and the president inside the Beltway in the National Capital Region, helping them avoid traffic and all that stuff.
Sure.
And then so we'll also do a lot of commandant lifts. So we'll even travel to support the commandant. And then we do some foreign heads of state as well in the U.S. So like we did the Pope a couple of times. And then every now and then, like, the president can invite other people out to Camp David for conferences, summits, or retreats, or whatever. So then we'll provide their transport as well.
Gotcha. Okay. And when doing international stuff, I mean, they just throw a 22 or a couple 22s on a couple C-17s and take it wherever the heck you got to go.
Yeah. So I think currently there's still two different kinds of helicopters. So there's the VH-3 Sea King, which is big. That's what you usually see on the South Lawn. And then they have a modified Black Hawk.
Got it. Okay.
And for the most part, would take the Black Hawks with us overseas because they're easier to break down and transport.
Yeah, I'm just visualizing. I don't think 22s fit on C-17s. I don't think.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we go overseas, unless it's like a high profile spot like the UK and stuff like that, we'll just get fleet support. So whichever Marine air assets are in the area, sometimes we'll work with the Army. We'll get fleet support for like the Secret Service and staff, but we'll transport POTUS helicopters everywhere he goes.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's got to have the leather seats, right?
Yeah,
He's not in any jump seats.
Yeah. So we shove him back in the C-17. We can break down a 60 and get all of our gear ready inside an hour, and then load it on a C-17 inside of 30, 45 minutes. So
that's wild. That's quick.
Yeah.
Far quicker than I would have expected.
Yeah. So the one thing I loved about my unit is we didn't have lots of like red tape issues. Like, we didn't have any supply problems. We brought spare engines, spare rotor blades with us when we went overseas.
Wow.
And we could change everything as needed.
Yeah.
And then, we had the authority of the White House. So we traveled with brown passports instead of like your personal one. We're officially there on government business.
Okay.
So we avoided all that stuff. And then oftentimes we would stay on like a military base to provide our support. Yeah. And if like the base is like, oh, we're doing it this way, we're like, yeah, we don't care. We're going to do it this way.
Right on.
So that was nice.
Yeah. What you have a story you can share just for some of the uniqueness that job offered, or like just a wild experience?
Yeah. So I think so. Yeah. So, and it sort of goes along the lines with you're not in control of your life. So it was just like a normal day. I think it was like a Monday or Tuesday. And my staff sergeant came in. I was a Lance corporal at the time. And he's like, cancel your weekend plans. You're going on a trip. I'm like, where? And he's like, we don't know yet. You'll find out more information. Okay. And then the next day, they tell me to prepare all of our equipment for an overseas detachment. And I'm like, okay, do we know where we're going? He's like, overseas. I'm like, is it warm? Is it cold? Like, what do I pack?
Yeah.
And then it was, I think Friday morning, we got everything ready. We were ready to load the cargo planes, and they're like, all right, so come back tomorrow. So it would be Saturday morning. Actually, no, it was later that night. We left on a Friday night because we went to Ukraine. So it was about a month after Russia invaded Crimea.
No kidding.
Yeah. So we went to support then Vice President Biden.
Huh. Just to give a speech and a couple handshakes over there. And
yeah, so that's what he did. He did political things and all that stuff, and we're just there as support.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. So you can definitely get pulled out and kind of derailed. I imagine it's a even more difficult place to maintain some kind of relationship. So
yeah, I mean, obviously the military divorce rate's pretty high in our unit. It does not help the cause.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. So I don't want to blow past HMX too much, but I know that you've had great success with your VA benefits. So I kind of want to get an idea of what was the final straw for you when you decided I'm getting out?
Yeah. So it was just like I really developed my passion for aviation, and I'm still working that field. But I wanted to sort of be done with maintenance and get on the more design side and manufacturing side. So I wanted to go back to college for engineering.
Okay.
So that's what I did.
Mechanical, or what type of engineering you go for?
Yeah, I was mechanical. Yeah.
Okay. Back at Iowa State also?
Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah. Okay. So it was good. Yeah. So to do the segue, I guess, so like I EAS'd October 31st. And then I moved back home with my parents for like a month in Minnesota. And then December 1st moved into an apartment in Iowa. So like I had like a month to sort of find an apartment, get it furnished and all that stuff. And then I started school in January.
That's quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super quick. All right. So you got out of the military. Did you ever consider, I mean, if your passion for aviation is increasing, you're like, I gotta go to school. Did you ever think about like just get a degree in commission to go fly? I mean,
actually I talked out with a lot of Air Force ROTC people about you just get in the Air Force to pay for my school and then go and doing flight school and all that.
Yeah.
And as I looked into it, I'm like, this is kind of a big gamble. Because if you go active duty with the Air Force, you don't really get a say in what you fly.
Yeah.
And you have to sign a contract before you even go to a med board or the flight school board. So I'm like, well, then if you fail those, you're just sort of screwed because you already signed the contract.
Yeah. So you weren't willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I did learn though through that if you enlist in the Air Guard at a unit that has what you want to fly, so like C-130s or if you want to do drones or fighters, then you can still commission and become a pilot, and they'll pay for your flight school and all that stuff, and it'll be for C-130s, right? Because an Air Guard C-130 unit is not going to send you to Air Force flight school to go fly F-16s.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit more selection that way, but it takes longer.
100%. Yeah. The guard route is a pretty effective route to go if you're trying to fly, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you get out and you're starting school up. Was this process to get the GI Bill underway pretty seamless for you, or
it was?
It was.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been preparing for this, or you just kind of called?
No, I did like the SEPs and TEPS class and joked off half, like 90% of the class. Didn't pay any attention. I like did the application for the GI Bill in that though, so I could get my like certificate of eligibility and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like I already had that piece of paper in hand, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then it was, for me, it's like I never officially left Iowa State. So all I had to do was send him an email being like, I'm coming back. So I didn't have to like reapply for college or anything, which was nice.
No kidding. So they weren't bent out of shape about your, experience 5 years ago.
No, yeah. So if I did one more semester and they kicked me out, it would have been different. But they never kicked me out. I was just on academic probation.
Interesting.
And I left for military. So like, yeah, you're good. I mean, if that first semester you can't F around, you got to get good grades. Otherwise you'll get kicked out. But
sure. Did they let you keep the credits like your first year? Did those count towards your degree?
They did.
Wow. That's pretty sweet. So you were able to graduate then in 3 years?
So it took me a little bit longer than that because I changed my major and I transferred schools.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let's play that out.
I think I changed 3 times. Yeah. So I did, what was it? I did 2 years at Iowa State for engineering.
Okay.
And that was all post 9/11 GI Bill, pretty much generic, straightforward.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy. And then I did an internship in engineering, which is how I sort of got turned off of engineering as a career. But I met another intern on the internship, and she was going to law school on the voc rehab program at the time, so Chapter 31. And she told me all about that. I'd never heard of it before. It was probably talked about in that substance class. I didn't pay attention. And so then I transferred schools in 2019 for the spring semester to the University of North Dakota, where I did eventually finish to get back into flying and go to flight school. Then I changed to the Chapter 31. So now it's called VRE, so Veterans Readiness and Employment.
So let me back up. So you were at Iowa State.
Yes.
You transferred to University of North Dakota.
Yes.
And you finished your degree.
Correct.
You graduated with a bachelor's in engineering, mechanical engineering from North Dakota.
No, so I finished with a bachelor's of business administration and airport management.
Okay. All right. Fair. But I guess the key point is that you had graduated. And
yes.
And then you switched to use Chapter 31.
Yeah. So I switched as an undergrad. So I changed schools and majors at the same time. And at the same time, I changed from Chapter 33 to Chapter 31.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
So I went for the whole shebang when I changed something.
Right. So first of all, if for those that don't know what Chapter 31 is and haven't watched the videos on YouTube, explain a little bit what's the difference between post 9/11 GI Bill, which is Chapter 33, and what's now known as VRE or Chapter 31. What's the difference of those? So
the main difference, for qualification is for VRE, you have to have a service-connected disability.
Mm-hmm.
I think officially it's at 20%, but I've seen them even give it to people who are rated at 0%. You just have to have one. There's no way around that.
Okay. I saw on the website. Yeah. I think today's website says 10%. That's
what it is now.
That's as I've known it for the longest time. So
it is the government. There's a waiver for everything, but you have to have some form of service disability.
Okay.
And then financially, the biggest difference is you don't get the cash up to $1,000 a year for books anymore. Books and stuff are still covered. You just send the bill directly to the VA, or you get it approved in advance and you get reimbursed.
Okay.
So that's the biggest difference. And then you have more benefits as well. You get a separate batch of 36 months to use your VRE benefits separate from your GI Bill.
Yep. Okay.
So that's just how I've been able to use VA benefits for school for 6 years.
6 years. Oh my gosh. All right. So how was it explained to you? Because as it's standing right now, it's like, well, okay, well, why switch from post 9/11 to VRE? Like, why not just keep doing what I was doing and then maybe use VRE later?
Yeah. So if you're in a program that's even engineering, but most business, any sort of liberal arts degree, right? That's just the basic 4 years, 8 semesters, and call it.
Yeah.
There's not going to be real benefit to using one or the other. If you intend to go to grad school, like say you're in like a literature class because you want to go to, or literature major, English lit, so you can go to law school or something like that, then VRE has some advantages because they can pay for like tutors and stuff like that for the LSAT so that you can score better. Whereas the GI Bill, you'd be paying for that out of pocket. But outside of a couple of things, like for me, like I mainly switched because I went to a flight school. So I had to fly as part of my degree. And then
really?
So
for business administration, airport operations, you need to get
your private pilot's license at the University of North Dakota.
Huh. Okay. That's a unique opportunity for people who want to get a degree, but also want to learn how to fly.
Yeah. And then at that school as well, if you want to do mechanical engineering, you can also do an aerospace concentration, which is basically just get your private pilot's license as well.
No kidding. Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are like, how do I use my benefits to learn how to fly? So that's a unique one. Okay.
Yeah. And then at the University of North Dakota, you can also use them not just for fixed wings, but you can use them for helicopters as well.
Wow. That's dope.
Yeah.
That is really cool. Good to know. All right. So, but you wouldn't be able to go to University of North Dakota, use your GI Bill just to get your helicopter license. You'd have to be in that program.
You'd have to enroll in what they have as a Bachelor of Science, a BS in commercial aviation. And then you can pick between fixed wing and rotary wing. You cannot do both. You can't do one and then switch. Nope. You gotta pick at the start.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you decided to switch to VRE because you had intentions of going to grad school, flight school. Would the GI Bill not cover flight school if it were just the GI Bill?
So it does, but it covers it differently. So, and this is true for all. I guess I should preface this. So, at a university flight program, the FAA needs it to be a Part 141 flight school. Mm-hmm. So it's a flight school offered in conjunction with a 4-year degree versus going to your local airport FBO and your mom and pop flight school.
Yeah.
I didn't do that with the VA. So I think there is ways that the VA can pay for that. I didn't do that. All I know is how to do it in the university environment.
Okay.
So at the university environment, you have to be an admitted student and be in a declared degree program that requires the licenses to graduate.
Okay.
So in order to graduate with a BS in commercial aviation from UND, you have to have your private pilot's license, your commercial pilot's license, all the endorsements and ratings that go with that. And you're actually your CFI, so your flight instructor, and your instrument flight instructor certificates. You have to have all of those things to graduate. So the VA will pay for those.
Okay.
And that's true for lots of flight schools that are partnered with universities. And then basically, if you're using the regular GI Bill, they'll pay for the minimum number of hours. So for private pilot at the university with FAA, it's 40 hours. It's like 5 solo, a bunch with an instructor, and then like 5 simulator hours. So as long as you follow that path and say you finished right at your 40-hour mark, congratulations, you have no out-of-pocket costs.
Which for private, is it common to get 40 hours? I mean, that seems like not much.
So I think it's normally 50 hours, but at a Part 141 school, the FAA lowers it to 40.
Okay.
But for your private pilot, most people don't actually finish that on time because that means you didn't have to repeat a single lesson. All of your check rides you passed, the first time, no issues. Whether you didn't halfway get through a lesson and the weather would get bad, so you had to cancel the rest of it. And all that stuff. So with the GI Bill, say you finished in 45 hours, the VA would still pay for those first 40 hours, and then you just have to pay for the last 5 hours.
Gotcha. Which, I mean, let's keep in mind when paying for flight lessons, I mean, we're talking like $250 to $300 an hour, right? I mean, you're paying for the plane, you're paying for fuel, you're paying for the CFI.
Yes.
It's not cheap. And so when we're talking 10 plus hours, we're talking a couple grand. So
yeah. And then for helicopters, it's $400 or $500 an hour.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the average cost at the University of North Dakota for your PPL when I was there was like $9,000 for fixed wing, but it was like $27,000 for helicopters.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe that's why less people do helicopters.
Yes.
Okay. So then you recognize that as like kind of the breaking point where it's like, this is the GI Bill is not the best one to use for these circumstances, and that's why I'm switching over to VRNE.
Right. Yeah. So, and then the VRNE also, they pay for your supplies that you need. So like for me, like that would be, I already had an iPad, but they paid for my 4-flight subscription to plan flights and all that stuff. I needed like a flight bag, a headset. So like they paid for all that. So like, and the headset that they got me was a Bose A220, which at the time was about $1,000 just for the headset.
Unbelievable.
And that right there is my entire yearly book stipend with the GI Bill.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is one of the most unique things about VRNE, where it's like, not everything's like already allotted, you know, like you have a counselor where you've got a relationship with for the entirety of your program. And you say, hey, like I need this, I need that. And 9 times out of 10, it's
then you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it's a beautiful thing. I imagine it gets abused a lot, but you know, it's for what, if you need it for your program and like that's how you're going to, you know, succeed, then it's awesome. But when people get hung up on like, oh, there's no stipend, or like in some cases, the BAH might be a little bit less. If it could be a little bit less correctly.
Yeah.
So people kind of get hung up on those things, but it's like, well, there's more to it than just that.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, you ask and see what you can get out of it. But yeah, I mean, I just, cause I'm in grad school with the VRNE and I got the ergonomics package, and it's like, it's pretty sweet. So, you know, new desk and computer monitors and things. So it's super helpful, and there's definitely some opportunity there.
Oh yeah. And then there's still, I mean, I'm still in the VRNE, so like I work full time, but their VRNE is paying for my grad school part time, which is great.
Okay. So you finish your degree using VRNE, and you had to come up with, you know, a kind of a career plan in order to, that was part of your application for VRNE. But then you graduated. And so was that application, that included grad school?
So not initially, but my counselor has been great. So she's updated my sort of plan as it's changed with my interest and with opportunities that arise.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which has been just phenomenal.
So, because I've heard different things. Because at one point I asked, like, you know, because I'm in kind of a job that could technically be the education, like on the job training stuff. So I was like, hey, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm in project management grad school, and then I'm working on my commercial appraising license.
Okay.
And so I was like, hey, can I just switch? Like, I don't want to be distracted by grad school anymore. I just want to like focus on my appraising classes and my appraising job. And I've gotten some pushback for changing in the middle of a program. Was one that I got pushback for. Another is that like appraising is kind of a unique, it's not really an apprenticeship, so it's not recognized. And so I'm fighting that battle right now. But
right. I think this is the good and the bad with VRNE, because everything does come down to your counselor.
Yeah.
And so if your counselor approves you, then great. If your counselor doesn't approve it, then it's hard to appeal that. You can't like shop around counselors.
Yeah. I mean,
there are ways to change counselors, but it's tough.
Yeah. And it doesn't look good either, because you have to ask your counselor to change counselors. Like, well, why? And then they're like worried that you're going to go complain about them, and then they're going to lose their job or something. So, so that could be an uphill battle, but that's what I understand also, is that VRNE is very much dependent on your relationship with your VRC, and kind of just how your VRC wants to handle the situations. So,
yes. Yeah.
So,
and I guess I should say, going back to the topic, right? That is the other big difference between the VRNE and the GI Bill. Is the VRNE is an employment program. It's a jobs program. So you have to be on an approved program that there is employment in that field.
Yeah.
Like the GI Bill, where you can use it for underwater basket weaving.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the application for VRNE is not like click of a button, you know, like you got to do some like real homework. You got to find like however many different job openings in your area. You have to like, I mean, you know, it's kind of a pain in the butt.
It's worth it.
Yeah, no, 100%, it is worth it. And I think it's, it's a little bit more intimidating at the beginning than it is after the fact, because like it's not hard to get approved, but you think it's hard to get approved by the amount of work they want you to do
Yes.
for the application. So you kind of, I at least stressed over it a little bit. So yeah. So, all right. So you completed your undergrad using VRNE. Now you're on to grad school. What are you going to grad school for?
So I'm just doing the generic, so the MBA, so the Master's of Business Administration.
Okay.
So for me, it's more of like it's a useful thing to have. It helps me. I work for a large airport currently, so it's helped for me to know how those sorts of things work. But the reason why the VA is still paying for it and why it's approved is one of the things I'm very interested in doing and want to do long term is sort of get back into whether it's being a lecturer or associate professor at a university, and you need a graduate degree. Doesn't really matter what it's in for that. So the VA is helping me get credentialed for that job.
But you similarly have to, because everything with VRNE has to do with your service-connected disabilities. And so you had to say, in order to, get your undergrad paid for, you had to say like, my service-connected disabilities are this is how my job is going to help me, fix or avoid these issues. And so if you're changing the program, even though you already finished the program that you said originally would get you to where you need to go, like, do they not question, does your current employment exacerbate your service connected disabilities?
So I don't know if I can necessarily speak to that, other than I just ask my counselor, if it's like, this is what I want to do. Is this possible to still do within my program?
Gotcha.
And if yes, like, let me know what paperwork I need to do. And I've heard some horror stories, with people and their VA counselor. Actually, like the person who referred me to the VRNE program did not like her counselor. She was like fighting tooth and nail for everything. But my counselor has definitely been like a partnership. Like I know a lot of people that have her as a counselor, and they just like, she wants to help her veterans succeed, which is great.
Yeah.
So as long as you check the boxes and like keep the VA happy, you're not violating any rules, you're not abusing anything, she's on your side, which is nice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like it's, I know plenty of people that can get, they've got a negative outlook on the VA, and, maybe some people just aren't nice on the phone, like, let's just be real. Some people are not nice, and they take it out on the VA workers, which is not nice. But this is kind of like a special scenario where it's like, you're probably not going to get helped. Like, and it could cost you a ton in like, literal finances and opportunity if you're kind of being a dick to your VRC.
Do not be a dick to your VRC.
Yeah. It's not making anybody's life easier. And it sure as heck is not going to get what, you're not going to get what you want if you're giving them a hard time.
Yeah.
So I think, from day one, just knowing that, knowing that you should be building that relationship like personally, in order to make sure that relationship lasts long and stays healthy.
Yes.
So that's good to know. Just making sure you're nice to your VRC.
Yes.
You're building that relationship long term. And who knows? You're in this now, what, 3 years into this benefit?
Yeah. So I started January of 19 with the VRNE. Well, sort of. I think the GI Bill paid my tuition for the spring of 19 semester, but I switched to the VRNE during that semester. So somewhere along the lines, it switched.
Interesting. You switched mid-semester.
So I did the application, which is I still think I was on the GI Bill housing and the tuition costs and stuff like that. And I got the book stipend that semester, but I started flying that semester. So the VRNE picked up what the flight cost the GI Bill didn't cover. Okay.
Got it. And so another thing that I understand rather to be true, is that, like you mentioned earlier, you get 36 months of the post 9/11 GI Bill, and you get, I think it's up to 48 months of VRNE.
Correct.
However, if you use your GI Bill clock first, you are wearing down your VRNE clock in the
Yes.
same way. So, but if you use your VRNE clock first, you're not wearing down your GI Bill clock.
Correct. Yeah. And that was like a real change. I don't know if it's a change, but a clarification that VIA had, like I think it was 2021-ish,
Yeah.
20.
Relatively recent.
It was pretty recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you did all 36 months of your JAB bill before, and you would then switch to VRNE, you would get 12 months of VRNE. But you could use now, it's all 48 months of VRNE, and then you still have your 36 months of JAB bill. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
I mean, it's huge. Like anybody, any enlisted that is thinking about medical school or law school or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity to get like high amounts of education and not end up in debt after the fact.
Yeah. And the other great thing about it is both your benefits, whether it's GI Bill or VRNE, they don't count as taxable income on the FAFSA. So I was qualified for Pell Grants, and I got tons of Pell Grants while I was going to school. And I still applied for like scholarships through my university.
Dude. Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of the things which I've got a video plan for it, but I didn't know about VRNE at the beginning when I first got out.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to use my GI Bill at the beginning because I had intended to go to medical school. And so I was like, well, I know medical school is gonna be way more expensive. I'm starting off at a community college in California. So it's basically already free. And then I would get the Pell Grant because I would apply for FAFSA, and then I'd apply for the scholarships. So I was like stoked because I was still I felt like I was still making money to go to school. It was not nearly as good as if I did those on top of doing VRNE. But so because I didn't know at the beginning, I was still applying for those things, but I could have done them both. And so I think, now if you've got long-term education aspirations, to be able to use VRNE first and then tack on GI Bill after the fact, is just tremendous opportunity there. And so I feel like a little bit of a sucker, but live and learn.
And then I was also a recent change with the GI Bill. So they came out with like the Edith North Rogers STEM scholarship. So, I mean, if you're in a STEM field, you can get up to 9 more months of GI Bill benefits as well.
Yeah, while you're on the GI Bill, yeah. But again, it's like, well, if you're eligible for VRNE, just don't switch. Use the GI Bill,
Yeah.
And so there's opportunity there, but though at the same time, I struggle with I don't like the idea of leaving it on the table, It's but do I really want to be in school for 10 years if I'm not going to be a doctor?
Well, so now it's with the Forever GI Bill.
Yeah,
I mean, you can use your VRNE, get your degree and all that stuff. And if you want to do a career change, you just want to take interesting classes.
Yeah, that's true.
You still have your GI Bill.
Yeah, and I have considered that, especially because there are abroad schools that you can use your GI Bill at. And so it's like, okay, I could go to school in Australia for a year.
Well, and you can also study abroad too through the GI Bill and stuff too.
Yeah, that is true. So there's tremendous opportunity to use your GI Bill after the fact for fun or for leisure. And I'm hoping to find a way to get a couple of my pilot ratings via my GI Bill at some point. And I don't know if that means I'm going to have to enroll in a full-time,
Well, so I think if you want the GI Bill to pay for your private license, then you do.
Yeah.
But if you already have your private, then I think you can use your GI Bill at a mom and pop flight school.
Oh, interesting.
It's
okay.
It's not necessarily a good deal if you're trying to go the entire way to become an airline pilot, if that's your goal.
Yeah.
But I think you can. You burn through your GI Bill at a pretty quick rate.
Gotcha.
Because they basically equate a month of benefits to a dollar amount. And then every time you spend that dollar amount, that's a month of benefits.
Oh, interesting. So, and it may forgive me if you explained this previously. Can you use VRNE at a Part 161 or Part 61, like the mom and pop version?
I mean, I think that'd be a tough case to sell. I mean, it'd be at the discretion of whoever your counselor is.
Yeah.
But if with it being an employment program, it makes them to be like, most airlines require a degree. You need that anyways.
But what if you already have it?
Then I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean it is an employment program. So I guess if you're you can get employed as a commercial pilot, right? Whether that's doing oil inspections or flying for smaller enterprises or whatever.
Fly banners around, baby. Yeah.
Fly for a parachuting school. So that is a job, and there is a need for it. So as long as you can demonstrate that need to your counselor, in theory, it would be approved. So
yeah, it's something I'll have to circle back to at some point, but too much going on right now.
I know the feeling.
So I know, I was amazed when you mentioned that you keep track of what the VA has paid you, like to the cent, which I'm like, dude, I wish I were that organized. I'm just grateful that the checks come, Yeah. So why? Why do you feel like you need to keep track like that?
The first, it was in case they say they screw up and want more money back. I can be like, nah, you didn't screw up. I have the receipts. But two, I just sort of became interested. So because I wasn't working full time, going to school was my full time job.
Yeah.
And I was just interested in how much money that I would have been in debt if I was to have done the exact same thing, but without the VA.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So, it's not 100% of all of the money the VA and the federal government has given me, because I took out the medical stuff. So this is just the education money.
Gotcha. Well, read it as you're sharing it, just because not everybody's watching.
Yeah. So this is a big sort of messy thing, but the big total is from spring of 2017 to date. The VA for education has been $192,000.
Oh my gosh.
So that's tuition, that's books, that's housing, that's flight study. And then while I was at the University of North Dakota, I did a work study with the VA.
Oh my goodness, dude. That's so crazy.
Yeah. So, tuition is the biggest category. So they spent $76,000 on tuition over this time, but housing's right there. At 69, just under $70,000 in housing.
Wow.
And this is me going to school in rural Iowa and rural North Dakota.
Wow.
So if you're going to school in California, like San Francisco, where your BAH is going to be $5,000-$6,000 a month.
Yeah. Dude, these things I have such mixed feelings about, because it's they're such great programs. I'm so grateful for them. But then when you just extrapolate it by the number, how much it costs, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, dude, it's out of control, but it's a wonderful thing. So, that's impressive. That's super impressive. One, that you kept track that close, and two, that you've actually benefited almost $200K.
Yeah. And I've been able to do some interesting things with it too. So the summer of 2019, I spent a study abroad in South Korea in Seoul, and the VA covered that.
Interesting. Okay.
I can get that in a second. Yeah. Then in the summer of 2021, I had to pay tuition because I did an internship at an airport as a co-op, but the airport did not, good airport. I'm not going to speak bad about them. Great time, but they didn't pay me enough to live where I was doing the internship and also pay rent back in North Dakota. Okay. So I registered it with the university. The VA paid the tuition for that semester, and then I got housing as if I was a full-time student. So you can do that. You can use your VA GI Bill or VRNE to cover housing while you're doing an internship or a job or something like that.
Interesting. And it's a full BAH rate given,
you can pick. So if you're in a, fall semester is the easiest for an undergrad, 12 credits is full time, or 40 clock hours. So if you're in a nursing program where you have 3 credits of class, but you're in labs the entire semester, you can those lab hours, you can count towards your full timeness if you need to.
Interesting. And so that was an internship?
Yes.
So what category does that fall under? Is it, because it's not like an education program necessarily, just because I'm trying to think of a backdoor way to get.
It's in a related field. So it's an internship in my degree. So I ran operations at a small airport for a summer. My degree was airport management. So it was gaining industry experience that makes me more employable upon graduation.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of paperwork. And then, so like for like just my school, I had to like keep track of things I did and write like a 3-page reflective essay to register it as a co-op.
Okay.
But each school is going to have different requirements for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very interesting. All right. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And then 2022, I started my grad school. And then this semester, I'm online only, which is why there's such a huge drop in housing.
Gotcha.
So I'm 3/4 time and it's online only. So
got it. So is it 610 a month? Is that what?
No, so I've gotten 610 since the semester started. So we're
okay. We're just starting. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so obviously with online housing, it's half the national average.
Yeah.
For BAH, and then I'm 3/4 time, so it's 3/4 of half the national average.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. That's always a kick in the nuts.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're an online person and like you really hate, but you want to get the full BAH, if you have one brick and mortar class, then you can get the full BAH.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super true. And I know there was great opportunity there during COVID when all the, technically resident classes were online.
Yeah. The VA was very nice with that. That's actually the only reason why I made. So in North Dakota, there's no minimum wage. So it's just the federal $7.25, which is what the VA work study pays.
Wow.
So if you were in to do it in a place like Seattle or whatever that has like a $15 minimum wage, you would have gotten way more money than me. But because COVID happened, the VA paid out like my full work study contract. So I got a lot more money than I would have otherwise, which was nice.
Interesting. Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. 192K.
Yeah.
That's good.
It covered a study abroad. It covered flight costs, covered internships. So,
and do you think you would have done all of this had it weren't paid for? Like if you had to pay for it or take out loans?
No way.
Okay. Yeah.
I would have. I mean, when I changed majors from mechanical engineering to go to flight school and airport management, I don't think I would have done that without the VA. There's just, it would have been a huge risk of taking on tons of debt.
Yeah. And some people don't think about that. And some people, I think that you're a good example of, there are still vets that end up with student loan debt, which.
Well, you can take them out, right? No one's stopping you.
You can. Yeah. I've met people that take it out for increase their quality of living and stuff. I'm like, dude, what? You got to pay that back, and you're going to pay it back with interest. And so I think there's opportunity, one, obviously to stay out of debt, and two, just kind of like delayed gratification. You can put off your Beamers, Benz, and Bentleys or whatever the heck you want to spend money on while at school. But you clearly did your homework. You found out how to kind of, achieve your academic goals and do it without taking out debt. And so I think that's huge. Yeah.
And then I'm not going to lie, like getting the federal Pell Grants helped a lot.
Totally.
And then
those weren't included in that table.
That's just VA money.
And I mean, those are, I know it's, it changes every year, but like $6,000 a year.
Yeah. It was over my course of time doing undergrad. It was tens of thousands of dollars.
It's crazy.
And then scholarships too, right? People really don't want to apply for scholarships because it's, in all honesty, right, it's super tedious. It's time consuming. It's frustrating, right? You might get 10% of the ones you apply for.
Yeah.
Right. But if you spend 10 hours applying for $1,000 scholarships and you get one, that's $100 an hour that you just got paid for your work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And I didn't think about applying to scholarships until I found out at my school that they were like giving money back to donors because not enough people were applying for them.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just sitting there unused. And so
At
I felt bad. I'm
like,
well, I don't need it. And then I found that out. I'm like, okay, well.
At Iowa State, I'm not sure if they still do the program or not, but when I was there, if you were a veteran using benefits and you fill out the FAFSA before the early deadline, they gave you $1,000 scholarship.
No kidding.
You didn't have to apply. You didn't have to do any paperwork. Just fill out your FAFSA and use GI Bill.
Which is refunded to you because it's already covered. And so I think
you get that as cash.
And sometimes I've heard that sometimes you actually have to ask, like the school will try to keep it or something like that. You have to ask for it to be refunded to you because your VA is already covering it.
Yeah. So there is usually it's your money if it's a scholarship that was awarded to you. The school can't keep it, but what sometimes they do is we'll apply it to your bill first because the scholarship money will hit before the VA tuition money does.
Yeah. And
then when the VA tuition money hits, you're then overpaid by whatever the scholarship was. So then you should get that refunded at some point.
Yeah.
That's but you can do paperwork with the school to let them know you're using benefits and have them direct refunded as soon as the school gets it. And then your tuition will be paid whenever the VA pays the tuition.
Yeah. That's better said. Before we get too far away from it, I want to ask you about your study abroad experience. So one, you're going to hopefully keep me honest with my research on YouTube videos. So was this with Iowa State or was this with North Dakota?
This was with North Dakota.
Okay. So they had a study abroad program. Was it how about this? You talk about it. You tell me about it.
Yeah. So the one I did was with Korea Aerospace University in Seoul. And it was a pretty short 3-week over the course of July because it lined up with Australia's winter break.
Okay. So not a full semester.
Wasn't a full semester.
Okay.
The university does have programs in aviation that you can do a full semester at. Most people don't do them because you have to take a semester off of flying.
Gotcha.
But with this one, I didn't have to delay my flying at all. And I took 2 required classes. So like I paid the University of North Dakota tuition, straightforward. It was the same bill. The VA just paid UND as if I took those 2 classes there.
Gotcha.
And then I got my full housing, but only for the length of the program, only for the 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
Now, working in the vet center as my work study and helping people navigate their benefits, there is the VA, it's going to be tough for them to say no to your study abroad request if you ask in the right way.
Okay.
So with the GI Bill, it's harder with VRE, but with the GI Bill, it's your benefits. There's no counselor approving it, right? There's no employment requirement. But you can change your major, right, as much as you want with the GI Bill. No one's stopping you. That's your right as a person. So if you change to a major, or you just happen to be interested in a major like international business or whatnot, that requires a study abroad for you to graduate, then the VA will pay for you to study abroad. Okay. Because it's a requirement for you to graduate.
Gotcha. Interesting.
If you don't want to go through the effort of adding a second major or changing major, if your university has a study abroad program within your major, so that you're taking classes that directly count towards your degree, and you're paying your local university tuition, they'll also do that.
So I understand there to be kind of 2 routes to studying abroad. So if you're at a school, you can go talk to the study abroad people, and either your university that you're enrolled in has like a direct partnership with this, a school abroad.
Yep.
Where it sounds like that was similar to you, where
that was me. Yeah.
The VA pays your school as normal.
Yep.
And then your school squares it up. So nothing changes there. You still get your BAH.
Yep. You'd get your BAH as if you were living where your school is located, not where you're studying abroad.
And so you're responsible for finding housing abroad.
Yeah. Usually a program like that, it's a partnership with the university, or you're staying in dorms.
Gotcha. So you're using your BAH to live over there.
Right. But keep in mind, if you have an apartment, right, you still have to pay rent in that apartment back wherever your home is.
Exactly. Okay. And then there's the other one where it's like they almost try to sell you on like some third party study abroad program stuff.
There is that. Yeah. I think I know one person who did it, and he had to jump through some hoops. He did the semester at sea thing.
That always looked like a great.
That looked like so much fun. But basically, so if you have a major that requires you to go abroad to complete the major, the VA GI Bill will pay for that requirement.
Okay.
It's going to be a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Because you have to justify to the VA that this is a requirement, and then you have to provide the documentation and basically show them the receipts. It's like a regular, 4-credit study abroad program that checks. I mean, it might not be an official partnership with the school, but like it checks boxes for your degree. It has to do that. If it doesn't check boxes, and the VA won't pay for it.
So it doesn't have to be a school that's necessarily already approved by the VA.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if the school I went to was approved by the VA. But like you pointed out, the VA just paid my regular state school tuition.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so if it's one of those third-party deals, do they still give you BAH, international BAH, or how does that work?
So you would just get, if you get it approved, you would still just get the housing allowance for wherever your school is located.
Okay.
So not where you're going, but where your school is located.
Gotcha.
Because that's like your place of residence or whatever.
Gotcha.
But I'm sure there's a way for somebody to thread that needle with the VA. I don't know how to do that.
Which it may not be advantageous to do that anyways. If your local BAH is higher than abroad BAH, which is like $1,800 bucks, I think, right now.
Okay.
Because it's the abroad BAH is a fixed rate.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So yeah.
And your local BAH is probably higher at this point, because like when I was in Grand Forks, North Dakota, my BAH was $1,450 a month.
No kidding.
So if I was in like anything close to a city, I would have gotten a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Interesting. Okay. Man, dude, you're really making it happen. That's awesome. That is funny. I looked at that semester at CE at one point. I was thinking like, dude, this looks like a little bit like a Mu, but way better.
Way better than a Mu.
Way better than a Mu.
Yeah. But yeah, so in order for the VA to pay for it, it has to check boxes for your degree. It can either be your primary degree, it can be a secondary degree, it can be a declared minor, but it has to count towards something.
Got it. And
as long as it does that, then the VA pays. You don't have to finish the thing that it's going to, right? Because you can always change your major again. That's your right as a person.
Yeah. Interesting. Man, I mean, a lot of people complain while they're in, like, oh, I don't get paid enough. If you do the hourly, I get paid like $5 an hour. That's like all this crap, but they don't consider you're how, what, 7 years out, 6 years out, whatever you're at.
Yeah. What 2016, so 8 years now.
8 years.
Yeah.
Right. 8.
No.
Yeah,
that's
quite.
6 years. 6 years.
6 years. Okay.
I can do math, I swear.
But 6 years out, and like you're still benefiting. I mean, here I am. I'm the same boat. I'm still benefiting by using VRNE. Still, getting education, getting paid monthly for my education experiences and stuff like that. And so it's like you can complain about your E2, E4 pay, whatever you want, but it pays dividends later on. And especially use it intelligently.
And then like, even if you just get a VA disability rating and you get that VA health insurance, right? Yeah. That's something that like it's expensive nowadays. Even like if you have a regular job with an employer provided health insurance, right?
Yeah.
Even your individual premiums can still be pretty expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just want to say no to that and use your VA healthcare for free, like that's another huge advantage.
Yeah. It's true. It is true.
I mean, VA healthcare is its own separate beast, but
I don't think the healthcare is bad. I think it's just like the administration part that's really bad.
That's a good way of putting it.
And I just think, I think the doctors are still good doctors from what
I've had a good experience with the 2 VA health systems I've been a part of.
Yeah.
So I personally have yet to have a bad experience with the VA.
Yeah.
I do know several people that have had worse experiences than me.
But I feel like, if you live in San Diego where there's like a billion of you, like they can't keep track of you all. So
it gets tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have noticed that like the smaller towns. So I was a part of the Des Moines VA system and then the Fargo VA system. And no issues with either. They were great. I did my comp and pen through the Des Moines VA system.
Gotcha.
And they actually like when I initially did my comp and pen, I just claimed tinnitus.
Uh,
So, and they gave me that at 10%. And then on that paperwork, they told me more things to claim. So I
you
claimed
went
them.
back.
Yep. So I claimed them, wrote like a personal statement to go with it. And then they bumped me to 30% without having to like do any more work.
What do you mean the personal statement?
So like there's I forget the name of the form, but you can write a personal statement about how your these things, like whatever your back pain,
Yeah.
tinnitus, whatever that is from the military, and how that relates to the military. So like for me, one of the things that I worked with aircraft is a bunch of chemicals, and
Yeah.
those have like side effects that are known. So I like, here's my authorized usage list of chemicals.
Mm.
These are their side effects. I have these side effects, and the VA's like, okay, cool. Here's money.
Interesting. Interesting.
But initially, I just claimed the tinnitus. So, and the Des Moines VA system was like, you should claim more.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I've met some people that have gone back. And I'm like, this, that doesn't sound fun at all.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, no, if you're willing to put in the time and the stress and the appointments, like,
yeah, and the county VSO, right? So their Veteran Service Office, every county has one.
Mm.
When I was applying for like the comp and pen stuff, when I was doing VR&E, I went through my county VSO, and they help you fight the VA if you need to, and they help you know what paperwork to file,
like
how to word things.
Basically?
It's basically the DAV, but it's your local government.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a local county government position, and they're there just to help you.
Gotcha.
And then they'll also let you know about what programs the city, county, and state you're in has to help you as well.
Yeah. And that's always something worth looking into, is like, okay, is there, if you're already at a rating, some municipalities like, oh, well, we'll get rid of your property taxes or your
some do that, or
car registration, or like,
yeah, they do all that stuff. Or like, depending upon it, you can get like free vet plates if you want that stuff as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your numbers there. And
yeah,
I mean, after it's all said and done, 6 years in, 5 years of active duty.
Yeah, 5 years active. Yeah.
Was it worth it?
I think so. Just like, I mean, for me, that's how I found my career. Like, obviously, I don't do it in the military, but how I found aviation and airports and that passion was through the military. Obviously, like I did college the first time straight out of high school, didn't do well. But when I went back as like a more mature person after some time in the military, and I was like, I had a plan. My plan changed a couple of times, but I had one. It helped me succeed a lot better. And then it also helped me, being an older, more mature person. I related a lot more to my professors than I did before. And your professors can open up doors that you didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah. Totally true. Totally true. Yeah. Would you recommend the military to somebody else?
I think, yeah. I mean, I had a really good experience. I've talked with I have some older friends whose kids are like high school, debating about going. Like, you had a great time in the military. Talk to them. I'm like, yes, but my experience in the military is not the standard experience in the military.
Yeah.
And like anything else, it is going to be what you make it, in my opinion. So if you enjoy the military, if you like that and you put in the effort, you're going to do well and you're going to succeed and you're going to make friends and have a good time.
Yeah.
But if you like go in there hating every day because you have to get up super early, well, you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah. If you can't get up early, I don't know, like, don't even go to college.
For real though. I know I worked out, and I'm still friends with a lot of people from that I serve with, which is nice. So
yeah. Awesome. Good, man. Well, just looking through my closing questions there. I'm curious on this one. Do you have a favorite military veteran discount that you like to take advantage of?
Yeah. So I mean, the only one I've ever used really is just the GovX website.
Oh, interesting.
So like, I'll go
as a vet.
Yeah, you can.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll go in there and especially for sunglasses, like I'll go window shop Oakleys and Ray-Bans and then buy them through GovX.
Makes sense.
What now though, as a vet, you can get access to the PX online. So you can buy stuff from the exchange stores online and get it shipped to you.
They're always expensive though. I always just remember the PX being so expensive for like clothes and stuff.
Yeah, so you got to shop around, right? Because if you're buying an already expensive item like a TV or something like that,
yeah,
you can save on the sales tax.
Got it.
Other than that, it might not be worth it. But it's shopping around, you can find individual deals.
Okay.
Also, like if you are a vet, I think they opened it up to everybody. I know if you have a VA ID card, you can go on to any military base, right, and shop at the commissary or the PX in person, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. No gym, unfortunately, but yeah, you can still get gas, get all the
yeah.
So that helps. Awesome, man. Well, any parting wisdom that you want to share with anybody before we step out? And
yeah, I'd say if you're transitioning, the most important thing is going to be have a plan. It really doesn't matter what the plan is, but something that you're interested in, and you can change the plan 15 times. Yeah. But have a plan so you're not just going back to doing nothing. Yeah. And then if you're going to a community college or four-year school or whatever it is to use your benefits, go hang out with your they call them SCOs, but school certifying officials, or in your veteran center. Those people know all of the ins and outs for all of the benefits. They've seen it before. They are more than willing to help you get the most out of your VA benefits.
Cool. That's good. That's a good tip. That's a very good tip. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kyle. I know you provide your LinkedIn link to me, so I'll make sure that's in the show notes and below. Okay. If anybody wants to reach out to you, that's the best place to find you. So, yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story. And for anybody that wants to hit Kyle up and figure out how to use your VA benefits to fly, or how to use them to study abroad, he can speak from experience where I just do the research. And so your experience is probably a little bit more tried and true than what's on the VA website.
At least until the VA changes things.
Sure. Yeah.
But thankfully they're slow to do that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, man. I look forward to staying in touch, and best of luck to you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for getting this word out.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Kyle. Kyle's a great guy, and obviously has done a ton of homework in order to, prepare himself for the transition, learn how to use these benefits appropriately, and maximize these education benefits. And so hopefully, his experience has inspired you to really think through how you're going to use your benefits and make the most out of them. And he is very knowledgeable and very willing to assist you if you have any questions also. And so if you're going through VRNE, if you're thinking about studying abroad, or thinking about trying to get your pilot's license with education benefits, don't hesitate to reach out to him via the LinkedIn link in the description. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time.